Good morning, Lourdes.
Good morning, Maria. How are you today?
I'm great.
I was like,
How are
where is
you
she?
today?
Where is she? Ah,
Sorry about that.
that's
Hello,
fine.
everyone.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. I'm Lourdes Sleeper,
And
and
I'm
this is
Maria
Maria
Savio.
Savio. Thanks for joining us this morning and being part of our bumpy start. Be sure to watch to the end for some practical practices you can start using right away. Today, we're diving into a really powerful question Marcus Aurelius challenges us with. To what use am I putting my soul right now?
Right. It's that moment of honest self-check, asking yourself, what kind of person am I being in this moment? Am I showing up as my best self?
Hmm. And just asking that question can be a real game changer, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes without realizing it, we're operating from immature parts of ourselves, like a child, a rebellious teen, or an impulsive 20 something. And bringing in awareness to when we are being driven by ego and control can be quite transformative, right?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Absolutely.
did you want to say something here, Maria?
No, it just reminds me. I mean, like, we say, and these stages, these reactions or overreactions, this immaturity, that can happen at any age, in your 60s, in your 50s, in your 40s. And that's why we're really talking about it because um, when you're, in your 30s, you can overcome acting like someone in your teens. And this is something that we want to overcome because of the knowledge and experience that we've had. It's just that our emotional selves also has to mature.
Yeah, all right. So this is something that, like I said, just asking the question
Mhm.
is a level of maturity, because sometimes people go through their lives in these, acting out of these other parts of, being impetuous, being, egotistical, or wanting control, or rebelling, right? Don't tell me what to do, right?
Right,
and, and
right,
and it's
right.
that rebellious teen is coming forward, and it's so interesting to see it in others, to experience it for ourselves, but to ask ourselves, right, this introspection, to ask ourselves, where am I coming from? Um, is this the 3-year-old who didn't get enough attention? Is this the teen who felt like, oh, I'm being hampered, I'm being controlled, someone else is imposing themselves on me? And it's a huge opportunity for growth, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so we're invited to interrogate our inner state constantly, and to notice what's running our command center, our mind. Is it an immature part of yourself running the show? And that thinking about our own thinking, the ability to observe and reflect our own thoughts, that's what we're practicing in that moment. And this self monitoring is essential for emotional regulation, decision making, and personal growth.
Yeah, and I think that we get a glimpse of this sometimes, especially if you practice any kind of mindfulness. There's a moment where you're like overreacting and you go, what? And it's that moment, it's that what that we're really talking about, because that self-awareness is a superpower. It helps us to catch that impulsive reaction before it goes out of control. And Daniel Goleman, who popularized emotional intelligence, he says self-awareness is the ability to take an honest look at your life without any attachment to it. Being right or wrong is not the issue. That's not what you want to look at. It's a non-judgmental self-check is the first step to growing beyond the unhelpful patterns. And the thing is that in our thoughts that are creating our actions and our suffering, we're the ones in charge of that. We are the ones that can stop these thoughts. We are the ones that can review these thoughts. We are the ones that can direct our thoughts. So when we start to look at them, we empower ourselves to make better choices.
Yeah, and you use the example of someone catching themselves in the moment, but sometimes you're going to catch yourself after the moment and be like, oh my gosh, I'm, I was being, I was acting out of this other part that I don't really want to do, right? So it's bringing a awareness, right, to catching ourselves when we're acting like a child, when we're being impulsive, when we're being naive or needing guidance, or acting like a tyrant and being controlling and harsh. And it's like guiding ourselves to choose our better self, right? Recognizing this lets us choose a better way and move toward maturity, wisdom, and compassion. So, if you're not catching yourself in the moment, maybe you're catching yourself afterward. That's you're still on the path to growth and gaining more maturity and wisdom.
Right, because the thing is that you want to separate who you are from your thoughts, because you're the controller of your thoughts. You are not your thoughts, and it's evident by the ability to see your thoughts outside of yourself, that awareness, right? So the challenge is moving from reactive or ego-driven states into the mature selfhood. And this matters because immature parts of us, the wild or tyrant part, as you say, often causes the suffering. And we're causing the suffering to ourselves, and we're also causing it to others and their thoughts.
Yeah, and Jung talked about integrating the shadow, those unconscious or denied parts, as essential to wholeness, right? He said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. So, this practice of asking, what soul, what part, what thoughts am I embodying, helps bring those unconscious parts to light.
Right. I mean, when you really want to practice free will, in order to practice free will, you have to have the awareness, and the awareness comes from the awareness comes the free will. From the awareness comes the ability to make a choice. We're no longer slaves to the immature impulses that can, that can cultivate virtues like patience and kindness and wisdom and self-control. We are the ones that, strengthen the muscle of these virtues, but we have to start with the awareness of the thought itself. And neuroscience, it shows us that self-reflective capacity lives in that prefrontal cortex, the brain's, command center, the mind. This area helps us regulate emotions. It helps us plan ahead, and it inhibits the impulsive behavior.
Yeah, and it's the part of the brain that develops last, and usually into early adulthood, right? And
Mhm.
that explains why younger people sometimes act more impulsively. but practicing things like mindfulness and journaling can strengthen this region and enhance our ability to pause and reflect.
Yeah, the Buddha says to understand everything is to forgive everything. So awareness leads to compassion, both for ourselves and for others. So this moment to moment reflection isn't about harsh judgment, but growing wiser and more loving towards ourselves. And, I often, and I think everybody does this, where we have these self conversations, right? Where we're, brushing our teeth and something occurs and we start having these future conversations with other people that we probably never have. And then you can notice the tone of that conversation. And when you start noticing the tone of the conversation, you can realize that you can control the entire thought, right? You can start going, wait a second, why am I upset? Why am I angry? Nothing has happened. And when you have that realization, you go, oh, nothing's happened. I don't have to have these thoughts. You don't even have to go deep into the thought. You can just go, you know what? I got to focus on something else. And that is a real muscle. That is strength choose to focus on something else.
Yeah, to bring awareness, right? Notice, and then choose differently. Say, you know what? I'm not going to rehearse this conversation that may or may not happen, but it's also an opportunity to notice what is arising, right? If you're rehearsing a conversation that you're going to have with someone, whether it's a loved one, a boss, or an employee, right? And you start rehearsing the conversation and visualizing what it is that you're going to say, noticing what is being triggered within you, how you're behaving in your own mind in this conversation. That's gold, because it also shows you where you're coming from, and that information about yourself for you is an opportunity for deeper inquiry and growth, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk about the daily practice. How do we bring this deep inquiry into daily life and strengthen our soul's command center? So first, start by pausing 3 times each day and asking yourself, what kind of soul am I showing up with right now? Notice if you're acting from patience, wisdom, and kindness, or from frustration, defensiveness, or impatience, right? And journal. Journal briefly about what you discover. No judgment, just observation. And if you find yourself slipping into a less helpful state, acknowledge it gently without any shame.
Yeah, one thing that I want to add to that journaling is that it's so easy to put it down on paper rather than sometimes to try to have a conversation in your mind or with someone else, because the level of patience that paper has is far greater. So that's one of the things about writing it down. You can get everything out and no one's going to interrupt you. So the next practice, when you notice immature impulses, name them kindly. That's my inner teenager. That's my rebellious self. That was the part of me that couldn't defend myself. There's different moments where we were helpless, and then we overreact to something that happens in the present. But it was because in the past we couldn't defend ourselves, and as children, we didn't have a lot of power. So sometimes we overreact as adults. That's what I find with my clients that have anger issues. They're fighting fights from the past. And then choose one intentional action to align more closely with your best self. One small shift, like taking a deep breath, speaking kindly, or slowing down your reaction.
Yeah, and remember, this is a practice. It's not perfection. It's about growing wiser and more compassionate over time. And over time, these small choices build the muscle of mature self-regulation. The thing that you added in, Maria, with regards to control, sometimes as an adult, we are kind of still reacting to what we experienced in our childhood, right? When we didn't have control, we didn't have autonomy, sometimes we didn't really have a say at all. And we've sometimes carried that forward and are still reacting as if we were that child without a say, without autonomy, without any agency. And noticing that can be a real game changer, because when you notice, oh, I'm rebelling, but no one can really control me in the moment. Why am I so busy rebelling all the time when people, in interactions, it's like, I can put that down because I am in control.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the wonderful, no, I mean, that's one of the wonderful things about therapy. It's not that we're going to change what happened. The interpretation of what happened is the thing that shifts you emotionally. That's the freedom that you gain. It's in reinterpreting, reframing the story of the event itself. What happened, and it couldn't happen any other way because it didn't. So we're not trying to rewrite history. What we're doing is defragging the memory and disempowering the memory that hold that it has on your emotional state. Again, it's going back to homeostasis. It's again going back to the emotional freedom and emotional mastery that we help our clients gain by some self-reflection.
Yeah. And, I know that we both integrate emotional freedom tapping into our work. And it's just it enables my clients so much freedom, because oftentimes, we're holding it in our body, and we may not even really necessarily be aware of it, but that release is really powerful, and it creates such a beautiful shift and an ability to really let things go and put them down, and no longer be coming from that place, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We want to leave you with this last quote from Carl Jung. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious.
Yeah. So the journey to know and grow your soul, your mind, your thoughts is the most rewarding one you'll ever take. So thanks for sharing this moment with us. Keep reflecting, keep growing, and remember, your soul's command center is yours to nurture.
Yeah. And intentional living starts with honest questions. So, what's one question you're asking yourself today? Let us know in the comments, below. And thanks for being here. We're walking this path right alongside you. So take care of your mind, take care of yourself, and if you'd like to support our work, please like, follow, and subscribe. And we'll see you next time.